अभी तक कैसा चल रहा है? अच्छा, many of you have asked me many questions during this week. Some of them are like very controversial, some of them are like regarding studies. So अभी किसी को कुछ पूछना है तो let's take this time and like whatever you have texted me many a times, I just ask you कि ठीक है क्लास में पूछना. So if anybody want to ask some of the questions that I have not answered.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, I had texted you last weekend itself about the notes. I am in the Telegram batch 5 and 6 group,
Hmm.
but I cannot find the notes. So, you just read the message and you didn't reply. So, I don't know how to go about it.
What notes you are looking for?
So, you said in the last show that you have uploaded your handwritten notes in the Telegram group, but I didn't find it in the 5th and 6th batch group. I'm
Handwritten
in that.
notes पे एक पीडीएफ, one PDF of handwritten notes is uploaded. Let me check in 5 and 6 में files. Yeah, there is one file called Ancient History 6 plus 12. You go in Telegram, check the file section.
1 second, I'm just doing it right now.
5th of April, I have uploaded a file, Ancient History class 6 plus 12. So in that, six का theme one, sorry, class 6 and theme 1 of NCERT is posted. तो उसको जाकर देखें. That's the handwritten notes I have provided till now.
Yes, sir, got it. Thank you so much.
So now, anybody else, any question that I have said कि class में पूछना?
Hello, sir.
Mhm.
Now I'm studying in a second year BA. So I want to ask you that should I join any coaching institute for preparation or should go further after graduation?
Wait a second. Actually, आज फिर मेरा plan खत्म हो गया and some people are waiting to join this class. So after 100, I have to pay 5,000 rupees per month to enter new students. And some of the students are not able to join. So first, let me share with them the live class ka link so that everybody can watch, because right now I cannot go back and class. Wait. देखो, जिसको ज्वाइन नहीं करना है अभी छोड़ दो, so that serious students can join. Like I find this two unique categories of students. Some are like unko they want, like they can leave everything for the class, and then there are some category of students who are like फर्क नहीं पड़ता, देख लेंगे रिकॉर्ड. बट बाय द वे, पीपल हु आर वाचिंग रिकॉर्डिंग, उनका नंबर बढ़ गया इन लास्ट फ्यू डेज. आई एम सेइंग कि क्वाइट गुड नंबर ऑफ students are watching recording these days. ठीक है. एक्चुअली क्या होता है कि आई कीप ऑल द बैचेज ओपन. मतलब किसी को मैं मना नहीं करता कि अभी तुमने ज्वाइन कर लिया तो अब वो करो. चलते ज्वाइन लाइव. तो या result of not coming on time. तो हाँ, अब क्या आपको पूछ रहे थे एक बार फिर से? नीलम, यू कैन म्यूट योरसेल्फ. समबडी वाज आस्किंग अबाउट कोचिंग करना है या नहीं. तो I think old students can answer this. I have taken this in great detail कि कोचिंग करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए. कोई है पॉलिटी वाले बैच से, थर्ड बैच, फोर्थ बैच, where I have discussed कि क्या, what's my approach towards coaching? कोई बताना चाहेगा before I say anything? Vamshi has raised his hand, so let us hear Vamshi. बताओ Vamshi.
Sir, you told like coaching is not mandatory, but you need certain guidance, what to read and what not to read, and how to prepare. This is what you told actually.
पहले तो आला भी कुछ कहना चाहता है. आला.
यस सर, जहाँ तक कोचिंग की बात है तो कोचिंग बेसिकली गाइडलाइंस के लिए है, और वो गाइडलाइन जो हम लोग को आपसे मिल रहा है सर, वो हम लोग के लिए सफिशिएंट है. आपके अंडर पे हम लोग रह के पढ़ रहे हैं तो हम लोग बहुत सारा चीज, मैंने कई बार ये भी बोला है सर, आप जो सब्जेक्ट पढ़ाते हो लगता है वही ऑप्शनल ले ले. तो अब इससे बड़ा बात और कुछ नहीं हो सकता है, क्योंकि चूजिंग ऑप्शनल बहुत बड़ी बात है. ये पूरा रिजल्ट डिसाइड करता है एक तरह से. तो गाइडलाइंस हमें आपसे मिल ही रहा है. अब अपने से जो करना है वो है हार्डवर्क सर. तो कोचिंग आई डोंट थिंक कि रिक्वायर्ड है.
चलो, एक डाउट और मैं अभी लेना चाहता था. एक इशू आई वांटेड टू डिस्कस इज मोस्ट ऑफ you, like this generation, have this perception. मैं पढ़ने के लिए बोलता हूँ ना किसी को, बहुत क्लोज लोग भी उनको बोलते हैं कि बुक पढ़ो. they have this perception कि they can learn from वीडियोस. वीडियो देख लिया, सीख गए. सो हिस्ट्री पढ़ना है, लेट्स गो एंड बिंज वॉच. किसी का ऐसा मैराथन सीरीज लगा हुआ है, बैठ के 4 घंटे देख ले, 10 घंटे देख ले, 20 घंटे देख ले, योर सब्जेक्ट इज कंप्लीट. यू थिंक लाइक दैट, एंड व्हेन यू वॉच द वीडियोस, देखते समय ऐसा लगता भी है कि हैव लर्नड अ लॉट. बट बिलीव मी, आई कैन. Yeah, Rajneesh, please share with them the streaming link, because अभी मैं फिर से subscription लेने जाऊंगा तो it will waste around half an hour of mine and the students too. So for today only, and ऐसे भी वो 10-12 लोग ही हैं, उनके लिए मैं 5,000 रुपए एक्स्ट्रा खर्च कर लूंगा. नेक्स्ट वीक में I will buy. But जो 5-10 लोग हैं, share with them the streaming link so that they can join. Please do this. I have posted in some groups too. Others who are requesting, please send them the streaming link. They can watch there, and if they have any doubt, they can post their comment in the Telegram group. मैं यहाँ पढ़ के उसको reply भी कर दूंगा, तो that will become interactive. तो ठीक है. Okay. So अभी somebody called me also and said कि sir, I have watched your video. Do I need to read the book? तो क्लास में मैं बताता हूँ, बहुत सारी चीजें बताता हूँ. I like talk about everything and anything. Sometimes they're very important for exam. Sometimes they might not be important for that particular subject, but important otherwise. And they have a very short memory actually. वो तुम फन वॉचिंग, फन लर्निंग की तरह एक तरह देख रहे हो. जब तक तुम जाके वापस से बुक नहीं पढ़ोगे और फिर से आगे, अगर तू, इफ यू रियली लाइक द वीडियो, रीड द बुक एंड अगेन कम बैक एंड वॉच द वीडियो. व्हाट आई हैव told, what I have missed, why I have missed. So read the book. It's like most necessary thing. अगर नहीं पढ़ रहे हो, नहीं होने जा रहा है यूपीएससी. अगर if you do not have the patience and the practice to read the text, videos are, अभी समझ लो कि 21st century का सबसे बड़ा myth है that you can read from, you can learn from videos. एंड किसी क्लास में पूरा साइंटिफिकली इसको डील करेंगे कि व्हाई वीडियोस आर नॉट द बेस्ट वे टू लर्न. इट गिव्स यू दिस फॉल्स परसेप्शन कि तुमने पढ़ लिया है, ठीक है. तो अगर कोई सोच रहा है ना कि एनसीईआरटी क्लास कर लिया और अब एनसीईआरटी नहीं पढ़ना है, तुम मेरा भी नाम खराब करोगे, खुद का भी नाम खराब करोगे, ठीक है. कि सर ने पढ़ा दिया सर फिर कुछ हुआ नहीं, आफ्टर 2 months यू डोंट नो एनीथिंग अबाउट एनसीईआरटी. सो प्लीज गो एंड रीड एनसीईआरटीज और वट एवर टेक्स्ट यू आर. अगर तुम यूट्यूब पे कोई सीरीज देख रहे हो, उठाएं और किसी का वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री देख लिया, किसी का ज्योग्राफी देख लिया, बट लाइक व्हाट आई डिड, आई हैव टोल्ड दिस स्टोरी like most of the time कि when I was just in my first year or probably in third semester or second semester, uh, I like kind of binge watched Mronal ka economy ka videos like 50 to 53 videos and watched that in 2-3 days. बहुत कुछ समझ में आया, लेकिन लाइक एक ओवरव्यू मिल गया कि अच्छा ये इकोनॉमिक्स होता है, ऐसा पढ़िए, ये चीजें पढ़नी है यूपीएससी के सिलेबस में. बट अगेन आई हैव टू री रीड अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन. कई बार रमेश सिंह को पढ़ा, कई बार फिर जाके उसके स्लाइड्स देखे, कई बार जाके फिर से वीडियोस देखे. इट्स अ वेरी रिपीटेटिव प्रोसेस. No, no, some of you can be like super intelligent, एक बार देखा हो गया, but I don't believe कि like out of 199, 90-95% of us are not like that. So we need repetitive studies, repeatedly going to books, text, because ultimately you have to write. Ravitha Lakshmi sir, I can't get your voice. The issue is with you, Ravitha. So read, ठीक है. और apart from that, यूट्यूब पे बहुत सारे वीडियो हैं, किसका देखे किसका नहीं देखे समझ नहीं आता. देखो, व्हाट आई हैव लर्न पर्सनली इज इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग एंड वाचिंग अ होल सीरीज, क्योंकि अभी अचानक से हो who are you, how are you and how is your health? I am fine, very good, thank you for asking. uh, so on YouTube, see, there are now n number of teachers. Some are good, some are literally rubbish. मतलब देख के मेरे दिल से ऐसा खून निकलने लगता है कि ये क्यों पढ़ा रहा है बंदा. सो समटाइम आई टेक personal mentorship batch. You cover reference books. I do not teach reference books. My again, the ideology is that you should read on your own. Then my students keep asking me कि अच्छा ये पढ़ा सर, ये वाले पेज में दिक्कत है, ये टॉपिक नहीं समझ में आया. I solve those queries. Okay, it goes like that. But I will suggest you, like, I prepare a whole schedule for 1 year. I give you that in this period of time you have to read this book, and after you finish that book, you will be given certain number of questions. You write that, I evaluate that. In between, if you are finding any difficulty in understanding that, then we can discuss and solve the queries. So basically, self-learning process. ठीक है अनामिका. हाँ, तो YouTube पे की बात हो रही थी. देयर एन नंबर ऑफ टीचर्स. हम कुछ को तो देख के, एंड पहला तो ये समझो कि एजुकेशन बहुत ऐसा YouTube पे बहुत क्लिक बेट्स बनते हैं. मतलब कि just to pull the students, attract the students, and it's like teacher has to teach in such a way that he can keep everyone hooked. Platform ही ऐसा है, if you are not getting the entertainment, you will shift to the next teacher. So जो लोग ज्योग्राफी से जुड़े हुए हैं, I start my geography class from a clip. Those who are from geography batch, can you raise your hands? So batch 4 students. Very few. Yeah. So If you remember, I started my geography lecture from this issue only, that why you should not rely on YouTube, because one of the very revered teacher, and everybody respects him because the way he has the stature that he has achieved, Khan sir. I start my classes from that clip only कि कैसे देखो, एक जो जनरल परसेप्शन है ज्योग्राफी का और एक जनरलिस्टिक टीचर जो जनरल टीचिंग करता है, एंड व्हेन यू रियली वांट टू प्रिपेयर फॉर यूपीएससी, तो कैसा अंतर हो सकता है, द फैक्ट इज गिविंग इज नॉट एक्चुअली करेक्ट. तो कई बार ऐसी गलतियां होती हैं, मुझसे भी हो सकते हैं, पढ़ाते टाइम मुझसे भी ऐसी गलती हो सकती है, बट व्हेन यू आर इन कांस्टेंट टच यू कैन गो बैक, यू कैन रीड एंड यू कैन आस्क मी कि सर आपने ऐसा, जैसे कि इन माय नोट्स, इन माय हैंड रिटन नोट्स आई हैव मेड अ मिस्टेक. although I have taught right in the class, but notes में वो गलती से एक जगह मैंने कुछ गलती कर दिया. I can't actually remember, but somebody pointed out that sir, you have made this mistake. Okay, so rectify it. On YouTube lectures, you do not have that feedback loop. गलती है तो एक बार घुस गया दिमाग में तो गलत घुस गया. थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन है. कुछ लोग बहुत अच्छे हैं, मोनाल के वीडियोज उस टाइम में काफी स्टैंडर्ड माने जाते थे. अभी भी कुछ टीचर्स हैं जो अच्छे हैं. अनअकैडमी वालों के चक्कर में मत पड़ना, बाकी कुछ भी देख लो. वो दिल से खून निकालने वाले जो वीडियोज आते हैं ना, कभी कभी वहीं से आते हैं. तो बेसिक आइडिया इज कि इंस्टेड ऑफ, नहीं वो भी वैसा ही है, इंस्टेड ऑफ वॉचिंग होल सीरीज और होल सब्जेक्ट, कोई टॉपिक पढ़ रहे हो तुम, लाइक यू आर रीडिंग geography and you are not able to understand weather distribution pattern, or you are not able to understand what is jet stream, so just type what is jet stream. Then you will not just find Indian authors, Indian creators ka video, you will find many foreigners who have explained the topic in great detail using great visualization. जैसे small टॉपिक सर्च करो और उसको पढ़ने की कोशिश करो. लाइक इफ यू आर रीडिंग, इंस्टेड ऑफ किसी का पूरा हिस्ट्री लेक्चर फॉलो करने का, यू आर रीडिंग द बुक. So that should become your whole wo. You have doubt about कि चाणक्य एक्चुअली कौन था, इसका पूरा स्टोरी क्या है यार, या you have doubt about कि अच्छा शिवाजी के बारे में थोड़ा और जानते हैं, तो राइट जस्ट सर्च कि शिवाजी स्टोरी, शिवाजी लाइफस्टाइल, एंड read about it. Watch that video 10 मिनट 15 मिनट 20 मिनट and move ahead. ठीक है. But अमित सेन गुप्ता ज्योग्राफी, हाँ, लाइक quality wise he is good, but even there I have found some issues are not dealt in the way that should be dealt. कई बार उस कोई so basically instead of following one teacher or one any channel, ऐसा कि जाके उसका सब देख रहे हैं और बैठ के रीड करो और टॉपिक सर्च करके पढ़ाई करो. दैट आई सजेस्ट कि नाउ इन करंट सिचुएशन दैट्स द बेटर ऑप्शन. पढ़ो, बुक पढ़ो. और कोई एनी अदर इशू विथ एनीवन? द क्वेश्चन आई हैव नॉट रिप्लाइड प्रीवियसली. So if anybody is watching live on YouTube, you can send your questions if you have anything to ask. चलो अब कविता रखते हैं बाद के लिए, and let's start the topic because it's already very late. Somebody has asked about old NCERTs, new NCERTs, and book list. This is like, I don't know why this doubt is still there. I have told about this multiple times. देखो, न्यू फॉलो करो, आंख बंद करके न्यू फॉलो करो, ठीक है. कुछ ओल्ड नहीं करना है, कहीं वो बुक 10 किताबें ढूंढने नहीं जाना है. न्यू फॉलो न्यू एनसीईआरटी बुक्स. बहुत सिंपलिस्टिक मैंने बुक लिस्ट एक बताई है. You will be following NCERTs. Apart from that, you will follow Tamil Nadu publication का 11th and 12th का book, and you will follow Nitin Singhania for some topics. Like you can be choosy if you want to read, give it a read, और कई डेटाज फैक्ट्स यहाँ पे अच्छे से प्रेजेंट किए हुए हैं, तो you can read Nitin Singhania for ancient. तो इसमें तुमको कई किताबें बताएंगे लोग, ओल्ड ऑथर का ये किताब पढ़ लो, वो मत, तुमको पढ़ना है तो पढ़ो, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि मत पढ़ो, बट दैट्स नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. ठीक है, आज यूपीएससी का पैटर्न चेंज हो गया. डू नॉट बी कंफ्यूज कि मैं बार बार ये बताते बताते अब थक गया हूँ. रीड एनसीईआरटी, तमिलनाडु पब्लिकेशन, नितिन सिंघानिया, दैट्स ओवरऑल फॉर योर एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री. इससे ज्यादा कुछ, हाँ एनसीईआरटी में फिर तुम्हारा फाइन आर्ट्स में, फाइन आर्ट्स की 2 किताबें हैं, मैंने दिखा दी हैं पहले, 11th and 12th के अगेन, वो पढ़ना है. इससे ज्यादा नहीं पढ़ना है कुछ एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री को, बिकॉज इन एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री आई हैव टोल्ड यू मल्टीपल ऑफ टाइम्स, दे विल आस्क 4 to 5 क्वेश्चंस इन प्रीलिम्स at max. In that, 2 questions will be so difficult that no matter which book you are reading, you will not be answer those. Most probably you will not be answer those questions. Maybe तुम्हारे दिमाग में कुछ अटक जाए और कुछ ऐसा लग जाए, कुछ hunch से या कुछ trick से you are able to do, then fine. But it will be very rare that you will be knowing those questions by heart. Rest 2-3 questions will be tackled by these sources. ठीक है, तो भी 2 क्वेश्चन पढ़ने के लिए तुम 4 किताबें पढ़ लो, दैट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस. नाउ कमिंग टू मेंस, सी यूपीएससी नीड्स अ लॉट ऑफ स्मार्ट स्ट्रेटजीज. स्मार्ट इन द सेंस कि तुमको तो मेहनत करना ही है, बट गधे वाली मेहनत नहीं करनी है. 2 क्वेश्चन के लिए तुम 4 किताबें पढ़ो, और तुम एक किताब पढ़ के अगर 4 क्वेश्चन कर सकते हो, व्हाट विल यू प्रिफर, वेयर यू विल devote your time? नहीं करना है आयुष राम, आयुष शर्मा, नहीं करना है, कुछ नहीं करना है. तो सूर्यांश पांडे ask anything, तो ये करना है. ऊपर से तो या सूर्यांश
सर, मेरे को सोशियोलॉजी ऑप्शनल लेना है सर, तो सर इसकी बेसिक कहाँ से स्टार्ट करेंगे इसके लिए?
कौन सा क्लास है तुम्हारा ये आज?
सर ये मेरा सर लगभग 10-15 क्लास मैंने लिए हैं. लेकिन
मेरे 10-15 क्लास तुमने लिए हैं? किस बैच से हो?
जी मैं 3rd बैच से हूँ, एनसीईआरटी फाउंडेशन 3rd से.
क्लास करते हो? दिखते नहीं हो, पहली बार दिख रहे हो.
नहीं सर, ऐसा नहीं है, मैंने पहले भी आपसे क्वेश्चन किया है. लेकिन जनरली सर एक्चुअली में इस टाइम मेरा क्लास रहता है, इसलिए मैं नहीं आ पाता हूँ. आज छुट्टी थी तो इसलिए मैं रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर देखता हूँ. कल आपसे भी बात हुई थी हमारी रात में, मैंने आपको मैसेज किया था ज्योग्राफी क्लास 7th के लिए. तो सर ऑप्शनल का ये जो बेसिक कहाँ से स्टार्ट करें सर, इसको कौन से क्लास से, मतलब सोशियोलॉजी के लिए
करते हैं? एक लेक्चर करते हैं सोशियो का मंडे को फिक्स.
ओके सर,
सोशियो पूरा एक लेक्चर ही करते हैं ऑप्शनल्स को लेके, हाउ टू सेलेक्ट ऑप्शनल एंड ऑल, एंड देन सोशियो पे बात कर लेंगे.
ओके
अबाउट हिस्ट्री, अबाउट हिस्ट्री देखो इतना कर लो. और आर एस शर्मा ये बोले, देयर थाउजेंड्स ऑफ बुक्स दैट यू कैन रीड. एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री का कोई एंड नहीं है. अपने को इतना पढ़ना है कि जो जस्टिफाई करे द नंबर ऑफ बुक. नाउ इन मेंस दे विल आस्क यू 3-4 मैक्सिमम 5 क्वेश्चंस. 5 तो नहीं होता है. of that, if you prepare previous year questions अच्छे से, and you have read this book thoroughly and you have gone through my classes will be much more helpful when you are writing answers for mains, because I try to give you a perspective about the things, एक clarity देने की कोशिश करता हूँ. So you, by going through these books, you will be able to answer these once if you have made your own notes. क्लास प्लस नोट्स अगर ऐड कर लो, इन सोर्सेस को पढ़ लो, you will be able to answer these 4 5 whatever questions are coming from this section. अब इसके लिए ज्यादा माथा मत पीटो अपना, ठीक है? इतना टाइम तुम लगाओ ना इन्वायरमेंट में, इससे कम टाइम लगाओ, लाइक लेस नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स टू रीड एंड ऑल, एंड complete do environment with diligently, you will find 10 15 questions from there. मस्त मजा, प्रीलिम्स पास करो, खुश रहो, एंजॉय करो, लाइफ को क्यों बर्डन बना रहे हो? एक किताब पढ़ के तुमको अगर 10 क्वेश्चंस बन रहे हैं और तुमको 10 किताब पढ़ के एक क्वेश्चन बन रहा है, क्यों दिमाग लगाना है ज्यादा? समझ में आ रहा है क्यों मैं कम सजेस्ट कर रहा हूँ? सजेस्ट करने का, आई कैन सजेस्ट यू 20 बुक्स ऑफ एंशिएंट इंडिया। कल भाषम पढ़ लो और ये पढ़ लो, वो पढ़ लो, बहुत कुछ है पढ़ने के लिए। रोज नई किताबें लिख रहे हैं, हर आईएएस आईपीएस ऑफिसर बन जा रहा है, उसको पता चल रहा है कि यार इधर इनकम तो ठीक ठाक नहीं हो रहा है, लेट्स पब्लिश अ बुक। एवरी पर्सन इज पब्लिशिंग अ बुक, सो इफ यू गो बाय दैट, अभी मार्केट में तो और कई सारी किताबें नई नई आ गई, एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री, मिडाइवल हिस्ट्री, ये वो, वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री, करो जाके, ठीक है? तो what happened recently, that one coaching institute, I hope many of you know the name of that institute, so they joined my classes on some pseudo name, and they started following my class for some time, and they thought, "Acha, chalo, let us replicate this." Now it's impossible to give a class at 1,500 rupees full NCERT foundation. नामुमकिन सा काम है। इट्स पॉसिबल बिकॉज मैं खुद कर रहा हूँ, घर में बैठ के कर रहा हूँ, रिसोर्सेस ज्यादा खर्च नहीं हो रहे हैं, ज्यादा लोग नहीं हैं, और अप्रोच वो है कि चलो ज्यादा मुझे अरब करोड़पति नहीं होना है। तो दे ट्राइड रिप्लिकेटिंग, बट उधर ऐसा कुछ, वो पहले बेच रहे थे 3,500-4,500 का सिर्फ सेल्फ स्टडी प्लान बेच रहे थे। They were selling self study plan in 3,500 rupees और 4,000 rupees. जस्ट तुमको एक पीडीएफ मिल जाएगा, तुम मस्त खुश रहो, बुक लिस्ट, और इस टाइम में तुमको ये पढ़ना। तो जो मैं ऐसे बात में बता देता हूँ ना कि ये पढ़ लो, ये पढ़ लो, ये पढ़ लो, दे विल राइट इट इन पीडीएफ, दे विल सेलिंग इट। और भी कई लोग हैं आजकल ऐसा कर रहे हैं, सेल्फ स्टडी प्लान 4,000 rupees. Now they are selling NCERT course in about 4,000 rupees some. अभी वो क्लास भी देने लगे 4,000 में। एंड सिंस आप पढ़ा सकते हो, एनसीईआरटी पढ़ाना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है। मैं हमेशा क्लास में कहता हूँ कि इफ यू आर सिंसियर इनफ, यू कैन रीड एनसीईआरटी ऑन योर ओन। मे बी इट विल टेक यू, यू विल नॉट अंडरस्टैंड द होल कॉन्टेक्स्ट इन वन गो, तो दूसरी बार में, तीसरी बार में समझ में आ जाएगा इफ सफिशिएंट टाइम। माय रोल इज इन दिस क्लासेस आर नॉट लिमिटेड टू टीचिंग यू एनसीईआरटीज, वो क्या लाइन लिखा है, वो क्या फैक्ट है। I hope you are getting that extra out of me. जो मैं करना चाहता हूँ वो तुमको मिल रहा है। You cannot bring in someone to teach that, and I don't think कि सब कोई वो कर सकता है। Everybody can provide the kind of guidance or the kind of, एक पेरिफेरल व्यू में, एक होलिस्टिक व्यू में देता हूँ। So ठीक है, चलता रहता है सब। तो ज्यादा बुक्स कलेक्ट करना, ज्यादा रिसोर्स कलेक्ट करना, दिन भर का 5 घंटा यूट्यूब वीडियो पे वेस्ट कर देना, not gonna help. That those are like pseudo studying. It gives you a sense of feeling that you are studying, but actually you are not. Studying is making notes, doing previous year questions, attempting MCQs, quality MCQs. अभिषेक, अच्छा फ्रेज है, लाइक इन्वेस्टिंग आयरन यू यू वी आर गेटिंग गोल्ड. नहीं नहीं प्रथमेश, आई एम वर्किंग विथ देम. वो नहीं, एक और इंस्टीट्यूट है. ठीक है, चलो अब हिस्ट्री स्टार्ट करते हैं. बहुत तुम लोग कहे कि सिर्फ प्रवचन ही देते रहते हैं, पढ़ाते पढ़ाते तो कुछ है नहीं. Start this class at a very funny note. And can be a very tantalizing for many of you. We are going to read about Manusmriti, by the way, in the class. So I thought, okay, let's start with this. What Manusmriti says about homosexuality. All of you know about homosexuality, right? So there has been a lot of debate, and those who are from my NCRT batches, I often tell you guys that there are a few changes that are happening in our present society about which you need to be very much prepared when you are going for interviews. And as a civil servant, you should have some opinion upon those things. You cannot just keep those questions. So first one is, of course, homosexuality. What are your opinions? Are you open to talk about this? Do you treat it as a disease, or it's a taboo, or what? Like whatever is your opinion. Then other one is homosexuality से थोड़ा सा difference है, that same sex marriages. So do you think this should be allowed, or what's your standpoint on this? Then another change that's coming in our society is live-in relationships. So what's your standpoint on live-in relationships? Anything I'm missing, Vamsi, here? I think are a few more sensational issues that we prefer not to talk in our society. But as a civil servant, you cannot. ये सारी कुछ अच्छा, we will discuss about more. So these are some issues which are very much. So again, one of the issue is the issue of transgenders getting jobs mainly in armed forces or in police, or making them mainstreaming of transgenders. What is your opinion on these? जैसे when I was ये आर्टिकल मैंने बहुत टाइम पहले पढ़ा था, जैसे very old article in 2017 or 16. I just searched this article today when I was looking for. So Manusmriti talks about homosexuality and more about sexuality. And so according to the ancient law book Manusmriti, I'm just reading, ठीक है? If a man had said his semen, क्या हो गया, गायब हो गया कैसे? So, if a man has said his semen in non-human females, in a man, in a menstruating woman, in something other than a vagina or in water, he should carry out the painful heating vow. So thus, this idiosyncratic vow was meant not only for homosexuals but also for errant heterosexuals. The penalty would, मतलब Manusmriti basically doesn't allow homosexuality. But on the other hand, like India has this great tradition, and we are kind of proud of this. On one hand, you have Manusmriti, which says any kind of deviance from the normal sexual meaning that is given there. Other than that, everything is punishable by heating vow. On the other hand, in Kama Sutra, written by sage Vatsyayan, you have a separate whole chapter dedicated on homosexuality. When if you'll go, if you'll see the walls of Khajuraho temple and Sun temple in Odisha and others, find there are images of people involving in homosexual relationship, even relationship with animals. जहां से आज चैप्टर स्टार्ट हो रहा है. ठीक है. It's going to be very controversial, and I hope you will enjoy, and it will give you a refreshing idea about everything, whatever conception you have till date. So this is chapter 3rd of theme 3 of class 12th, theme 1. ठीक है, एंशियंट इंडिया. चैप्टर नंबर 3, थीम 3 लिखा है, चैप्टर नंबर 3 है. इससे पहले 2 चैप्टर्स हैं अबाउट हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन, एंड देन the next chapter was about the rise and fall of the kings and kingdom, farmers and towns. But today we are mainly taking this religious route to understand the past. So let's start. Mahabharata. Now, I think all of you know that today Mahabharata is a collection of about 1 lakh verses, 1 lakh poetries, 1 lakh line of verses. So couplets are there, and it's being said that this book has been composed in a period of about 1000 years. So around after 5000 BC onwards, people started writing this, and its writing continued 5000 BCE to 5000 CE. So this is like in the last class, probably I was discussing about who is the author. Do you think Mahabharata is written by the one person or different person? Now you understand that one person cannot live for 1000 years. So Mahabharata is certainly written by different persons in different time period. So we will come to कि किसने लिखा है, but that's our later concern. As a student of history, what is the importance of Mahabharata for us? Why NCERT is talking about Mahabharata? We can talk about anything else. It's important because it gives us a lot of historical background, understanding about the society. Like, let's suppose today a film is made. कोई सा भी एग्जांपल एक फिल्म का, हिंदी मीडियम, इंग्लिश मीडियम में, कोई सा, टेक द नेम ऑफ एनी मूवी. अभी कौन सी लेटेस्ट मूवी आई है, कोई मूवी पैंडेमिक में? So no matter how bizarre that movie is, how much open it's in thinking and anything, Sirsa. So that movie is ultimately based upon the social realities. उसमें एक बात, अगर in present time we have this family relationship of mother and father and their childrens, and there are certain social angles, social responsibilities related to them. The movies are basically a reflection of the society जो चल रहा है. या think about any story that is written. So last class I told you about if you want to read about partition and know the actual pain of partition, go and read Saadat Ali Hassan Manto or Amrita Pritam. So if you will read them, you will understand about the society of that time. क्या चल रहा था. Similarly, no matter Mahabharata is true or false, it gives us a peek into what the author was thinking, how the society was organized, what people used to think at that time. जैसे कि तुम 60s की मूवी देखो तो क्या है, वो हीरो हीरोइन का अगर एक किसिंग सीन भी आना है तो they will not show you a actual kissing scene, like hero and heroine are coming together and then the camera will suddenly shift and they will say that 2 flowers are touching each other. That's how it was meant. So like that shows the kind of society that we're living in. But अभी वो दिक्कत नहीं है किसी को. So Mahabharata is also peek into the society of that time. It gives us a glimpse of that society and how. Let's discover that. Before that, as I told you, this is about 5,000. It's written in about 1,000 years, 1 lakh verses. So we didn't have, there's a lot of variations in Mahabharata from places to places. So I come across this story that in some part of our country, I don't know where exactly, currently I can't recall, but most of you will agree with me that the villain of Mahabharata is biggest villain in Mahabharata, because of whom everything happened, is Sakuni, right? The first name comes up, Sakuni. But there, in certain section of society, in certain part of India, I don't know ki kahan pe, lekin there the story is that Sakuni is the hero. His worshipped, his revered for what he did. Because the story goes like that. Gandhari was, Sakuni was the brother of Gandhari. Now Gandhari, the mother of Duryodhan, she was taken by force. She was not willing. She was not willing to marry, and उसको ऐसा, there was some स्वयंवर चल रहा था, and Pandava and Kauravas, they took her by force and married to this blind person. And they killed everyone in Gandhari's family. Sakuni survived, but Sakuni was not a fighter. Sakuni was not a warrior. He could not protect his daughter, his sister. And that's why he planned all this revenge upon Pandavas and Kauravas, that by being with them, he worshipped goddess Kali, and he took all these 3 wars ki mujhe aisa do, ki vardaan do, or जुआ खेलने का, and that everything started from there, right? So Sakuni revenged. Sakuni is not a villain. तो अपनी बहन के साथ जो हुआ उसका वो revenge ले रहा है. There are numerous stories. Even in Ramayana, you will see कि for us, it's like इसमें कोई debate नहीं है कि Ram killed Ravan, right? But Ramayana is equally famous in Myanmar and many other Buddhist countries. Indonesia, Vietnam, we have talked about. Repeat तो नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं अपने आप को. Have I told you all this before? First time बता रहा हूँ ना? हाँ, ठीक है. So, अरे एक ही क्लास में पढ़ाते लगता है कि कभी इसमें पढ़ा दिया है तो. So in Buddhist version of Ramayana, you will say they play all these texts. वो तुम देखोगे तो उनका एक famous dance है that revolves around, I am forgetting the name. There is a famous dance that revolves around रामायण का स्टोरी पूरा, वो बंदर की तरह सजते हैं और पूरा डांस, किलिंग ऑफ रामायण. But there, the supreme virtue in Buddhism is non-violence. So Ram is not the killer of Ravan. Instead, Lakshman is killing Ravan there. Ram to non-violent है. Stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata has changed and evolved and taken stories from local cultures. Sometimes local stories have become mainstream, and sometimes mainstream stories has become localized or lost. ठीक है, तो दिस इज अबाउट रामायण. तो इनके चलते बहुत सारी वेरिएशंस थी. सो वीएस Suphankar, a Sanskritist, he took this challenge and he created a critical edition. So there is this Mahabharata which was completed in 47 years, considered 13,000 pages. In that, they have collected manuscripts from Kashmir, Nepal, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and in the footnotes and appendices they have mentioned about the variations as well, कि यहाँ पे तो हनुमान जी गए थे पर वहां की स्टोरी में ऐसा है कि हनुमान नहीं राम गए थे, ऐसा. Now our understanding of the past is mainly based upon Sanskrit texts, and these Sanskrit texts are written by one particular community we know, Brahmins. So whatever we read in them, we have to take them that with a pinch of salt. That's not always true. Or even if that was true, there were many others who have questioned these ideas and occasionally even rejected them. We will read about those people also. देखते हैं कि इससे क्या क्या पता चलता है महाभारत पढ़ने से, हाउ वी कैन रिकंस्ट्रक्ट द इंडियन पास्ट. First ki we can find about families, ki how families were organized at that time and what was the value of family. So we come across these terms frequently of in the books of those types: kula, jati, and vamsha. So kula is designated families. Jati is the larger network of kinfolk. So तुम्हारा जो एक जो close family है, that's your kul. Your extended family is like your फादर्स का फादर का फादर के फादर का कोई ऐसा दूर का कोई ऐसा 6 ग्रैंडफादर्स, तो ऐसा. एंड वंस इज द लीनियज, सो राम राज ऐसा चल रहा है, या फिर क्या रघुकुल रीत सदा चली आई, किसी के वंश से फिर ट्रैकिंग फ्रॉम दैट पर्सन वी ऑल हैव डिसेंडेड, दैट्स लीनियज. ये सारे टर्म्स वहाँ पे काफी यूज हुए हैं, एंड दैट shows कि people used to track and they basically they were living in some kind of family structure, their blood relations were different. Then उससे ज्यादा एक चीज और क्लियर होके आती है, द आइडिया ऑफ पैट्रीलिनियली. अब ये टर्म समझ लो एंड दिस विल बी हेल्पफुल. नाउ दिस हिस्ट्री इज बेसिकली नथिंग बट सोशियोलॉजी ऑफ एंशिएंट पास्ट. थोड़ा थोड़ा सोशियोलॉजी भी पढ़ोगे साथ साथ. पैट्रीलिनियली मीन्स tracing descent from father to son and grandson, and matrilineally होता है tracing descent from mother side. So what happens in our time? तुम खुद को जो भी बोलते हो, whatever your caste or community is, you track your lineage from your father's side, right? मेरे पिताजी ये थे, उनके दादा ये, इनके दादा ये. Not track your lineage from mother's side. Your name, your title is decided by your father's टाइटल एंड फादर्स लीनियज. जो फादर के चलते चलता है वो पैट्रीलिनियली है, मदर चलता है वो मैट्रिलिनियली. तो बाय रीडिंग महाभारत वन थिंग इज वेरी क्लियर, दैट इट वाज अ पैट्रीलिनियल सोसाइटी. ठीक है. एंड पैट्रीलिनियल सक्सेशन वाज प्रोक्लेम्ड, मतलब मेरे पापा राजा हैं तो मैं राजा बनूंगा. दैट काइंड ऑफ मेंटालिटी वाज देयर, एंड दैट्स व्हाई ऑल द वॉर हैपेंड. Now, but this was not always true that राजा का बेटा ही राजा बनेगा. We have seen many variations too, like Karna. You know the story of Karna? He was not the king, but he was later made king by Duryodhan. Then in actual history, we also have examples of people like Prabhavati Gupta. In the previous chapters, actually, in chapter number 2, you have to read. Prabhavati Gupta was the daughter of Guptas, and she married to Vakataka kings somewhere in central India. But since she was coming from the most powerful empire of that time, she exercised a lot of control, even when she was married to other empire. And इसका बहुत सारा evidence मिलता है. तो when you are writing essays on women empowerment or something, to do mention the name of Prabhavati Gupta. Similarly, if you go by the Rig Veda, we find the evidence that sun was preferred even at that time. And there are hymns and shlokas written for producing fine suns. but it says that these kind of hymns are probably inserted very late in 1000 BC. Rigved is very तो काफी पहले start हो गया, but in the later हमने पढ़ा था, अगर ऋग्वैदिक टाइम्स हम लोग को याद आ रहा है तो देयर वाज इनिशियली ऋग्वैदिक पीरियड वाज काइंड ऑफ गुड, नॉट वेरी ऐसा ना कास्ट का बहुत ज्यादा रिस्ट्रिक्शंस था, women have kind of equal rights, but in the later Vedic period the society degenerated and here the caste become very rigid and women का condition भी बहुत deteriorate हुआ. So that's why this verse is probably a later addition. Now, you know the story about कि why the war in Mahabharata started. कि सबको पता है, नहीं पता है तो जाके एक बार पढ़ लेना, like not out of scope of. Then rules of marriages. This is also very interesting. By reading Mahabharata, you understand कि how people were marrying at that time. So it was, by reading Mahabharata, it's kind of assumed that people at that time were following a method called exogamy. So these are the types of marriages. Again, very important. Endogamy is जब कोई अपने ग्रुप कास्ट में ही मैरिज करे. Exogamy is when you marry outside the unit. So in India, we practice exogamy as well as endogamy in most of the places. So exogamy in context that you have not to marry within your gotra. And endogamy is that you have to marry within your caste. Okay? So endogamy, exogamy. Then polygyny is the practice of a man having several wives. Gynae or gynae, you know the term gynecologist. तो वहां से gynae. Polygyny is a one man having many wives. And polyandry, this might be like shocking to many of you, a woman having several husbands. In this period, we kind of understood that the practice of Kanya Dan, the daughter being gifted in marriage, has become important, and वो love marriage वाला concept तो शायद नहीं था, and people used to marry their girls, and काफी जल्दी young girls and women की शादियां हो रही थी. But we see that with the emergence of new towns, society life become complex. We have read this multiple times. And to control this, जब ज़्यादा complex society हो गया तो people were confused and they will not follow the law. So you need a codified law. So in this period of after 500 BC, we see the rise of scripts like Dharma Sutra and Dharma Shastras. Okay? They were basically laws, these norms कि क्या करना है, codes of civil behavior, what you can do and what you cannot do. So one of them is Manu Smriti, which was compiled between 200 BCE to 200 CE. लगभग 400 times period में Manu Smriti was compiled, and we read one of the examples of Manu Smriti, that what it tales. And Manu Smriti at this point of time is very controversial book, right? So there is a group of people who are hell bent on, for them Manu Smriti is something that should be burned. सबने सुना होगा, anybody, कोई ऐसा तो नहीं जो अनभिज्ञ है इस बात से. People of certain caste organizations, especially STSC organizations, they see Manu Smriti as a book which is written to exploit them, and that's why they burn this book. Even the practice is coming from, the practice can be tracked from Ambedkar. He himself burned Manu Smriti. So, but we see that whatever they have written in Manusmriti is what was not always practiced in the society. That's what we have to understand here. Indian society was always very diverse, and it has the practices have always been very varying. They have never remained constant. So, besides giving the regional diversity within the subcontinent, we saw that there are regional diversities across the India, and influence of Brahmins were not all pervasive. Simply, you can understand कि धर्म सूत्र और धर्म शास्त्र में there are 8 forms of marriages. 4 forms are considered as good. अब तुम देख लो तुम इसमें किस टाइप का मैरिज करने जा रहे हो. So first one is daughter is gifted, ऐसा ऐसा. फोर्थ में कि भगा के ले गया, तो इसमें राक्षस विवाह और ये वो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. किसी को देख के तुमने पसंद कर लिया और लव मैरिज करने जा रहे हो, तो दैट्स फॉल इनटू द सेकंड कैटेगरी. अब तुम सोच लो भाई, धर्म सूत्राज और धर्म शास्त्राज को प्रिफर करने वाले लोग, इफ यू ट्रूली बिलीव कि वट एवर इज रिटन इन हियर इज गुड, तो फिर तो तुमको फर्स्ट टाइप वाला विवाह ही प्रेफर करना पड़ेगा, देव विवाह, वेयर gift of a daughter after dressing her in costly clothes and honoring her with present of jewels to a man learned in Vedas whom the father himself invites. Now, Gotra of a woman, this is also interesting. I think all of you know. So this Gotra system is actually very old practice in India. Sometime a question is being asked, even UPSC has asked this question in mains. Although there are many civilizations like Mesopotamian civilization, Greek civilization, and all, Egyptian civilization, but none of them are continuous. But Indian civilization is a continuous system. Even after everything has happened, we have maintained that culture. And one of the proof of that is unfortunately our caste system and our Gotra practices. They started somewhere thousands of years and they're still there. With of course certain modification, but they're still there. And then there are other traditions, like even our religion and culture and philosophy, everything is present in some another way. It's like I'm deviating a bit, but this is something that I cannot stop me from sharing with you. Like it was a very eye-opening moment for me. In last class, we were discussing something a lot about Independence Day and all. So, and एक दिन हमने एक ऐसे लिखा था, याद है तुम लोगों को, कि सीधी लकीर खींचना बहुत टेढ़ा काम है. The line was written by Hajari Prasad Dwivedi. So that person has written on the, so yesterday was his birthday, and so I was reading some essay written by him. In that he talks about Independence Day. So what independence means? He says कि independence does not mean स्वाधीनता. हम हिंदी में क्या ट्रांसलेट करते हैं हिंदी को, इंडिपेंडेंस को स्वाधीनता दिवस, राइट? But independence means lack of any dependency, right? अनअधीनता, हिंदी अगर करो तो इंडिपेंडेंस मीन्स अनअधीनता, किसी के अधीन नहीं होना. But Siddhika, please mute yourself. So independence means अधीनता, और मतलब किसी के अधीन नहीं होना. बट स्वाधीनता मीन्स सेल्फ कंट्रोल, सेल्फ डिपेंडेंसी. So whatever translations we have made of independence, it's always Swaraj, Swadhinta. So in our Indian culture, there has always been this great emphasis on controlling yourself. Independence for us never means lack of rules. Independence for us is living within the rules which are created by us. There's a lot of to talk about, But this kind of our history. There's always been the people who are civilized ones. We're not the uncivilized barbarians who do not like rules. And when you say, actually, truly, when you say I am independent, the independency do not come where you are free of everything. नहीं वही मैं बताऊं कि independence in that sense, in the Western sense, independence is freedom from everything. In Indian sense, culturally, if you go back to, you read Gandhi and if you read anyone, we will read Buddha shortly and we will understand that in our sense, independence is not lack of rule or lack of control or lack of restriction. Independence for us is, like, we do not have any word for independence actually. मतलब जिसको उस तरीके से यूज किया जाए. When we say independence, we say self-control, self-resistance, swadhinata, swaraj. Okay. So that's a kind of very interesting moment for me when I realized, I don't know, you can appreciate this idea or not, but there's something to take pride in about our own culture. कि हमने कैसे खुद को बनाया है, हमारी civilization में वो चीज आज भी है, that the seed that was planted thousands of years back. तो again अभी इसी बात पे याद आ गई कि ये बात कि Indian civilization is a continuous one, and that's how we see कि Gotras, which started thousands of BC before, it's still here. And the Gotras basically are named after Vedic seers. Yes, all of you know, maybe many of you might not be knowing your Gotras, some of you might be knowing too. So basically, it's supposed that everybody is a descendant of one or other says Vedic seer, like Gautam, Kasyap. सुना होगा सबने. But there, for women, the Gotras rule were different. And that was different in the Vedic period. In the Mahabharata, we find this instances too. That women were expected to give up their father's Gotra. अभी भी चलता है. And people were not supposed to marry in same Gotra. But मैंने एक बार कभी हल्के से जिक्र किया था कि when we read about Satavahanas who basically ruled between second century BCE to second century CE. जब मौर्यास का डिक्लाइन हो गया था and there were no big ruler, so at that time in the central India this Satavahanas were ruling second to second century CE, and after that we see the rise of Guptas on the time scale, if you will arrange Mauryas and then 1-2 other small kingdoms and then Satavahanas and then again Guptas. So ऋषि सातवाहना ये पूरा अलग सिस्टम फॉलो कर रहे थे. What they were basically doing is they were following a matrilineality. So see their name, गौतमी पुत्र सतकर्णी. सतकर्णी लिखा है, सतकर्णी पढ़ते हैं. गौतमी पुत्र सतकर्णी, वशिष्ठी पुत्र, गौतमी पुत्र, मधारी पुत्र. So these are the names of their mothers, and they are taking their names from their recognizing their names from their mother. Even in Brihad Aranakya Upanishad, we see that there are names of many teachers and students who are deriving their names from their mothers. इसको बोलते हैं मेट्रोनिमिक्स, माँ के ऊपर नाम रखना. ठीक है. So some of the Satavahanas ruler were polygynous. They have more than one wife. But their wives, like the queens, they were maintaining the gotras of their fathers. They were not renunciating their gotras. In fact, they were also the community who were practicing endogamy or marriage within the kinship group. हमारे यहाँ most of the cultures में we do not allow endogamy, but those who are from South India, they kind of understand this. For North Indians, देखो अभी this is also very important to understand, and that's why I say कि UPSC is such a journey that opens your mind to such a thing that a common layman person probably will never accept. क्या होता है नीतीश, ध्यान से सुनना कि in whatever society we live in now, we took that for granted that पूरी दुनिया में ऐसा ही होता है, especially of our perception of our religion or of our culture. We think that India is a homogeneous society. कि if something like this is happening in our culture, this will be happening all across the world. So for us, an uncle marrying his niece, it's such a big taboo. सोच भी नहीं सकते नॉर्थ इंडिया में, मतलब ये तो अपराध है. Go to south. See, that is the most preferred relationship. So people from South India can shed further light on this. So there's no homogeneity. There's a lot of variation in the practices which are there in our country. और कोई एक पैमाना नहीं है कहने का कि ये you are Indian, or there is one no matrix that to say that you are Hindu or you are follower of whatever religion, because there's so many variations on all these practices. So in South India, we read about this in great detail in sociology, by the way, ki why people marry within their why there are endogamous marriages in South India and why there are exogamous marriages in North India. So probably they were basically marrying within their king's group to ensure close knit community. ऐसा है कि साउथ इंडिया में दे वांटेड टू कीप द वेल्थ ऑफ देयर फैमिली विद इन देयर फैमिली. तो अगर ज्यादा दूर दूर से बाहर करेंगे तो फैमिली वेल्थ का डिवीजन होता जाएगा. सो लेट्स मैरी टुगेदर एंड कीप द वेल्थ within the family. There are many sociological explanations, not going into that as of now. So were mothers important in this period? By saying that, okay, people were giving names based upon their mother, you can jump on to the conclusion that yes, mothers were very important. But you should understand that even the Satavahanas, who were taking the names based upon their mothers, वो भी patrilineal थे. The succession of the throne was best passed from father to son. नाम वो मांगा लेता था, लेकिन गद्दी तो बाप से ही बेटे को जाती थी. Now, let's talk about caste. All of you have heard about caste. This is a very good definition of caste for non-sociology students. You should use this definition for even in Indian society whenever you are writing. So, caste is a set of hierarchically ordered social categories. क्या है caste? Hierarchically ordered. Hierarchy is like this: छोटा से बड़ा से बड़ा से बड़ा. So, hierarchically ordered social category. So one category is here, other category is here, other category is here. So this is basically caste. Now, Brahmins of that time, especially Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras, had told that these are divinely ordained. Okay? These are divinely ordained. भगवान ने बनाया है, तुमको ऐसा नीचे रहना है, इसको ऊपर रहना है, ये ऊपर ब्राह्मण हमेशा टॉप पे रहेगा. दिस इज डिवाइनली ऑर्डेन्ड and position within the order was supposedly determined by the birth. So in whichever family you are taking birth, based upon that your position will be determined. Then caste also talk about the right occupation. So your occupation will be based upon your varna. and whatever they basically talk about these 4 varnas. I think all of you are aware about. Brahmanas, who were supposed to read Vedas, perform sacrifices; Kshatriyas, warrior, protect people, administration and justice. Then Vaisyas, supposed to do engage in agriculture, pastoralism and trade. And Shudras, their इनका एक ही काम था, to serve all 3 communities. And so how do you suppose the Shudras would have been following it? ठीक है, हम तो ऐसे ही हैं, मेरा काम ही है ऊपर वाले को सर्व करना. You need certain indoctrination, you need people to persuade, and for that, to enforce these norms, Brahmins used to follow these 3 strategies. First one is to assert that Varna order was divine or has divine origin. पहले ये लोगों को समझाओ कि जो सब चल रहा है ना, ये तो भगवान की लीला है. ठीक है. So Varna order was divine origin. The second one is they advised kings to ensure that these norms were followed within their kingdoms. King's advice, पहले तो कि राजा को बोला कि भाई ये नॉर्म तो अपने किंगडम में फॉलो करवाओ. एंड थर्ड वन इज they pursued people that the status were determined by the birth. तो लगे तुम्हारा तो जन्म ही इसमें हुआ, अब तुम क्या कर सकते हो? You have to follow this and try to do good work, serve as per your occupation, as per your class. And if you will do better, probably in the next birth you can move up the ladder. So, and even though if people were not ready to accept this, then the next idea was to write these stories in Mahabharata and other such texts and make people believe कि ऐसा ही होता है, भगवान ने ऐसा बोला है. So there is this Sukta, there is this text in Rig Veda called Purusha Sukta. If you UPSC पूछ सकता है इस सवाल को. This is the first instance where we find this analogy. If you, I think most of you are well aware about or have heard probably somewhere in some another context that the structure of society has been compared with the man, Purusha. So the head is Brahman, the arms are Kshatriya, the thighs are Vaisya, and feet are Shudras. So this explanation of Vaishnava was his mouth, Kshatriyas were arms. ये पुरुष ऋग्वेद में मिलता है ऐसा explanation. So does this mean that only the Kshatriyas were king? Because ऐसा तो वेद में भी कह दिया और मनुस्मृति भी कह रहा है. But actually we find that the political power was effectively open to anyone who could muster the support and resources. जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस. उस टाइम में भी ऐसा ही चलता था. So some of you, those who are like indoctrined in this idea of caste system, and उनको ऐसा समझाया जाता है कि like caste system in ancient days were very good and if you'll go back, I've heard this discussion, like I'm saying, तुम लोगों में से बहुत लोग इस चीज को believe करते होगे और ऐसा argue करते होगे कि we can go back to that. So if you'll keep your eyes and ears open, you will hear such discussions. These are like everyday discussions happening in bus, trains, trams, village, and elders talking about this. They are like पहले का caste system अच्छा था. And we'll go back to that, so everybody will do their own work. And I heard this bizarre argument somewhere on the bus, but मैंने बहुत खुजली हुई, but I somehow resisted myself. छोड़ो इनको, क्या समझाया जाए, मूर्खों को मत ज्ञान सिखाना, दूर भागकर जान बचाना. So there's this idea that caste system was strictly followed in the ancient time and there was like peace and tranquility. राजा राजा का काम करता था, क्षत्रिय मतलब वैश्य वैश्य का, बनिया बनिया का, शूद्र शूद्र का. But that was not so common, and we saw that there was always, even the Mauryas who became the biggest, created the first empire, we see that even their origin is hotly debated, that whether they were Kshatriyas or not. Buddhist text suggests that they were Kshatriyas, but Brahmanical text suggests that they were of low origin. तो चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य क्षत्रिय था या क्या था, उसको लेके आज भी बहुत डिबेट है. मौर्य कम्युनिटी now they have status of OBC. They somehow track their origin from the Maurya lineage. Keshav Prasad Maurya in UP. Similarly, we see that Sung and Kanau just उसके बाद आते हैं मौर्याज के बाद, and they have a very brief rule, but they were Brahmins. Similarly, we see that Saks, मैंने इसके बारे में बताया था तुम लोगों को पिछले क्लास में भी, Saks who come from Central Asia, and one of the very famous ruler of that, Rudradaman, he built Sudarshan Lake, and he was actually a devotee. Rudradaman, वो रुद्र नाम से ही समझ में आ रहा है, he was a devotee of Shiva, and he was very versed in Sanskritic traditions. मलेच्छ आदमी भी आ गया, क्षत्रिय बन गया. अभी तुम क्षत्रिय होकर बहुत प्राइड कर रहे हो तो then one of the best example of that is Satavahanas. They took pride in calling themselves Brahman, और वो भी एक यूनिक ब्राह्मण, एक्का ब्राह्मण, and they took pride in calling themselves as destroyer of Kshatriyas. So Satavahanas, who were basically kings, a ruling dynasty, they were Brahmins and they were destroyer of Kshatriyas. So तुम्हारे वर्ना सिस्टम किधर गया अभी? And we'll see that he entered into marriage alliances with the kin of Rudradaman. So he is saying that there should not be intermarriages between four varnas. तो ब्राह्मण को ब्राह्मण से शादी करना है, क्षत्रिय को क्षत्रिय से. And here is your king, Brahman himself, Satavahanas, marrying whom? Mallets. तो ये सब रूल वोल जो था, ये सब मतलब ऐसा बुक में ही था, ऐसा दिखता है. Satavahanas claim to be Brahmins, whereas according to Brahmins, king ought to be Kshatriyas. तो कितना कंट्राडिक्शन है. ये खुद को ब्राह्मण कहते हैं और ब्राह्मण खुद कहते थे कि किंग तो क्षत्रिय को होना चाहिए. They claim to uphold the fourfold varna. ये कहते हैं कि हम वर्ण सिस्टम में, we believe in varna system, but they are marrying someone who is like completely outside their varna system, and even then they're practicing endogamy instead of exogamous system recommended by Brahmanical text. तो सब उल्टा कर रहे हैं. Then jatis and social mobility. Now this is very important. Most of you will be lifetime confused between varna and jati. Lifelong confusion है, तो इसको आज क्लियर कर लो. Varna system is the, you can say, a theoretical system. And maybe for a certain period of time it might have actually been practiced. Here in Varna system, the varnas are fixed. There is just four varnas that we have read. But this jati system, we see कि जैसे जैसे occupational categories बढ़ती गई, here we just, in the ancient time we thought about कि लोग चार ही तरह का काम कर सकते हैं. Either they will be reading, so Brahmanas, reading, writing, intellectuals, or they will be fighting and protecting and kings. Either they will be traders, or then there will be servants. So four categories of jobs they decided. But later there were many occupational categories emerged, like goldsmiths, Swarnakar, or forest people like Nishads. अब इनको इस वर्ण सिस्टम में कहाँ डाला जाए? Where to place them into this varna system? It was difficult, and that's why varna system gave birth to jati system, where numerous jatis can be there, no restriction. So every occupational category got its own jati. Professor community, ऐसा ऐसा बनिया में भी 10 तरह के बनिया हो गए. Now see again the texts are लियो टॉल्स्टॉय का एक बहुत अच्छा स्टेटमेंट है. All of you know about लियो टॉल्स्टॉय, right? If not, then तुम बहुत गलत जगह पे हो. So लियो टॉल्स्टॉय कहते हैं कि if you want to understand the real history, read stories of that time. Read literature, not read history. Because history is written basically पहले तो यही होता था. History is written by the kings for the kings, by the kings for the people, to indoctrine कि कैसा लोगों को समझाना है. So that's their history only. But literature is about society. This gives you a glimpse into what people of that time were thinking, what they were actually doing. So there is this famous, अब ये MCQ में prelims के लिए important है दोनों ही. Mritshakatika written by Shudrak in 14th century CE. It has a very famous character Charudat. This is a very good love story, by the way. If you want to watch, you can watch on YouTube. Mritshakatika का ऐसा तुमको नाट्य वर्जन मिल जाएगा. Charudat was a Brahmin, but he was also a merchant. So how can a merchant be a Brahmin can be a merchant? But it was happening in 4th century CE. Similarly, we will find मान लो ये तो स्टोरी है, फिर भी कुछ भी हो सकता है. But we find a 5th century inscription where it's described that the donor was a Kshatriya Vaniks. Now Vaniks are traders. So this Kshatriya is also involved in trade. ठीक है. So they collectively now integration beyond 4 varnas. So society, what point the book is trying to make is society was always not organized in these silos कि ब्राह्मण अलग थे और क्षत्रिय अलग थे और वैश्य अलग थे और शूद्र अलग थे. There were great intermixing somewhere. All of the time, all of this, we are doing the work of each other. And that's the best thing about Indian Varna system. So basically, this idea of rigidity, ना, जो हम caste system में आज rigidity की बात करते हैं, this is very new. This happened in our culture very late. There has always been some degree of mobility, shifting from one community, one group to other, allowed in our culture. Eklavya ki kahani, I hope all of you know. This is like very good story. If you do not know, go and read about it. Again, this is something that you can use in your essays. So I remember in 2017, I had to write some essay on education system. So the future of countries decided into classrooms. ऐसा कोई essay आया था. There I used the example of Eklavya that as a counter argument to that, somewhere in between, that we have the anecdotes of people like Eklavya who ऐसा distant learning भी कर सकता था बिना teacher के. So if you have such anecdotes, you can use, and that will enrich your essays. Now, there is this famous story from Adi Parva in Mahabharata, where सबको मालूम है हिडिंब का कहानी. भीम की वाइफ थे हिडिंब. शी वाज अ राक्षसनी, और इसका बेटा बाद में हुआ घटोत्कच. I hope all of you are aware. I'm not again going into the story of it. If you do not know, read about it. So basically, how can a human marry a Rakshas? तुम्हारा जो अभी perception है राक्षस का कि somebody must have like long teeth and nails and other things. How can a human marry a Rakshas? So basically, now how we conclude that this Rakshas word was not actually like used for demons. ये दैत्य नहीं है, ये भूत नहीं है. Rakshas is not bhoot or something like that. Rakshas are just the people who were not practicing or whose practices differed from the Brahmanical texts. So those who are not following Manusmriti or such, they were called Rakshas. ठीक है? So whenever you see that there is a fight between some king and Rakshas, so you can assume that king is one who is supported by Brahmins and Rakshas is that community. So basically you can also say non-Aryans who are not following the Brahmanical culture, and that fight is basically seen as the fight between human and Rakshasas. Now beyond the four Varnas, subordination and conflict, we see that there is this great idea of purity and pollution. So these lower community, so-called lower castes were seen as polluting. उनका touch भी polluting माना जाता था. Then in Manusmriti, we find that it has laid down the duty of Chandals. They have to leave outside the village, use discarded utensils, wear clothes of the dead, and the ornaments of irons. Chandals are basically those who used to burn the dead. तो उनके लिए ये मनुस्मृति ने ऐसा रूल बना के रखा है. They used to dispose of the bodies of those whose relatives have served as executioners. अब ये important है, मैंने एक बार जिक्र भी किया था. Fayan has written about untouchables, and they said कि they had to sign a clapper in the street so that people could avoid seeing them. बस उनको देखने भर से ही लोगों का अपशगुन हो जाता था. So they have to use a clapper cam coming so that people can turn other way or do not look at them. Then Huyen Sang aaya, and he has written, observed that the executioners and scavengers were forced to live outside the city. And there is a trick to remember Fayan and Huyen Sang. Sometimes it confuses कि कौन कब आया. तो मैंने इसको ऐसा सिंपल सा बनाया कि F पहले आता है and Huyen Sang X से पढ़ो या H से पढ़ो, तो X बाद में आता है. तो first Huyen Sang is coming and then first Fayan is coming and then Huyen Sang. Now Huyen Sang का H से चूंकि भी pronounce, so he has come in the time of Harsha. हर्षवर्धन के कोर्ट में जो आया वो आया Huyen Sang. फायान आया था गुप्ता के पीरियड में. ठीक है, 5th century Gupta, and Huyen Sang is coming in the period of Harsha. Harshvardhan. We have read about Harshvardhan. So in same way, तुम लोगों को खुद से भी ऐसा करना चाहिए. Try to create mnemonics and some way try to remember the things. जैसे भी तुमको याद रहे. तो this is how I remember कि उसके Huyen Sang, Harsha का period, and his after Fayan. So Fayan in Gupta period. And there is this story in Matang Jataka. This is a Pali text. Jatak jahan bhi mile, it's related to Buddhism. So it says that there is a Bodhisattva. We will read about Bodhisattva in the next chapter. It's called the Buddha in the previous births. काफी confusing है. Buddha not in the next birth. Buddha in the previous birth. ठीक है, यूपीएससी तुम्हारा 1 नंबर खा जाएगा यहाँ पे. बोधिसत्व has different meanings, but your NCERT is saying कि बोधिसत्व means Buddha in the previous birth. जब वो बुद्धा बने उससे पहले उनका जो जन्म हुआ था. तो in one of these births, Buddha was Chandal. And then this स्टोरी की वो उन्होंने किसी लड़की को देखा और लड़की ने बोला कि अरे मेरा तो सारा दिन खराब हो गया. और फिर पढ़ लेना एक बार, मजेदार कहानी. Beyond birth, resources and status. ना महाभारत पढ़ के अपने को ये भी समझ में आता है कि access to property was also dependent upon कि which gender you belong to. So किसी की men's were fighting for property, women's were not. वो ऐसा द्रौपदी को राज्य नहीं मिलना था, वो पांडव या अभिमन्यु को ही मिलता. Even Manusmriti and Dharmashastra tell that women could not claim a share of his father's or parents' resources. But now this has been, अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट आ गया, तुम लोगों ने पढ़ लिया होगा. Women have equal right in the parents' wealth. मनुस्मृति को अभी ठंडे बस्ते में रख दिया. स्त्रीधन is literally women's wealth. So man, अभी वुमेन जो डॉरी वॉरी लेके आएगी उसका भी इधर कुछ थोड़ा सा वो है स्त्रीधन. And there is this special feature of Stridhan that you might miss. This Stridhan can be inherited by their children without the husband having any claim on it. So Stridhan पे जरूरी नहीं कि husband का claim हो. Whatever money that woman is bringing from her parents' house, their children will have a claim on that, not the husband. ठीक है, इस तरीके कुछ कुछ कंफ्यूजिंग चीजें यूपीएससी पूछता रहता है. I've told you about Vakataka queen Prabhavati who get married, but even though women were not supposed to have access to wealth, but she has considerable access to wealth and उसने बहुत charity भी की है, and that's why we know her. And access to property was also limited by the Varna system. जैसा कर्ण की ही कहानी है, he didn't had any wealth and all, but was given. And against this kind of a system where only Brahmins and Kshatriyas can have most of the property, although even in these texts we find some depictions where Brahmins were poor too. सुदामा का जो जिक्र आता है, तो सुदामा बेचारे वो गरीब ब्राह्मण है. So Brahmins were poor too, although most of the time they were rich. But there were other traditions who were critic of Varna system too. Now you understand the origin of Buddhism, how Buddhism and Jainism originated. इतना सब कुछ ये सब चल रहा था हिंदू रिलीजन में, वर्ना सिस्टम, exploitation of the Shudras and up to some extent even वैश्यास, और ऊपर वाले दो मौज कर रहे थे. So then there comes this religion and it rejected the ideas of claim of the status based on birth. जो मेन फाउंडेशन था हिंदुइज्म का और उस समय का जो भी एक मनुस्मृति कल का जो एक चल रहा था, the main plank of it कि everybody has have their status based upon birth. Buddhism rejected that idea. Birth से कुछ नहीं होता. We will read about Buddhism in great detail. In south, basically Tamilakkam, Tamil Nadu का area में, we see that also there was this special kind of arrangement where sharing of wealth was considered as the West Bay. ये जो मैंने हाईलाइट किया, just need to remember that Puranaruru is a Tamil Sangam literature. Anybody from Tamil Nadu can give a little meaning of this. कई बार आसान हो जाता है याद करना. तमिलनाडु के टेक्स्ट बुक्स में तुमको मिल जाएगा इसका मीनिंग पूरा. So it's, I think it's some number. I'm actually forgetting. So Ashok, you are from Tamil Nadu. नाम सुन के तो नहीं लग रहा. बताओ.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It is called Purananuru. Purananuru. 400.
Oh, 400. Yeah, I saw it. कुछ number है. It's 400. Puranaruru. So I think it has 400 verses or something. That's why the name. So Puranaruru, it's a Tamil Sangam literature. That's the benefit of having all this diversity in the class, right? अभी सबको आराम से याद रहेगा कि पुरनारुरु यूपीएससी कैन आस्क, दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट? सो पुरनारुरु इज anthology of poems, so 400 poems I think, written in first century Tamil Sangam literature. मैंने बताया था कि when we had this Maurya empire जब decline कर गया है, and in that period about first century, so 200 BC to 200 CE, when we were busy writing Manusmriti in South India, they were writing Sangam literature, and in that there is talk in the Puranaruru. We have a story that the king should be generous, and also idea of a poor but generous chief. Story पढ़ सकते हो इधर, ठीक है? काम आएगा. Again, do not take it lightly. It's up to your ability कि कैसे तुम use कर सकते हो. Now, finally coming to the great debate, author and dates. When, who was the author and when Mahabharata was written? Let's now agreed by most of the historians that this was Mahabharata was actually composed by charioteer bards. Charioteer bards are like वो राजा लड़ाई करने जा रहे हैं, क्षत्रिय warriors, and with them some poets are going to depict that war and write about them. So they were known as sutas. सूतपुत्र. कर्ण को क्या बोलते थे? सूतपुत्र. सूतपुत्र क्या? जो रथ चलाने वाला है. So कर्ण का जब the family in which he was born, that was called सूत. उनके पिताजी रथ charioteer थे. So the charioteer bards were called सूts. They were generally accompanied by क्षत्रिय warriors, और उन्होंने स्टार्टिंग में कंपोजिशन लिखा है. But after 5th century BCE, Brahmins took over the story and began to commit it to writing. So for the first time when Brahmins took over, so initially it was not some Brahmanical religious text. It was just a valor story about victories and celebrating achievements. And this was the period in which Kurus and Panchals were gaining popularity, and they were gradually becoming kingdoms. So this is for sure that there were kings like the kings with these names. Dynasties were Kauravas and Pandavas were there. But अभी वो सही में ऐसा ब्रह्मास्त्र मारते थे और बारिश बारिश होने लगती थी, that's not true. ठीक है? So then we see another phase. So actually this whole text is written into different phases. So in the next phase, in the composition of text, see century 200 BCE to 200 CE. पहले तो 500 से इन्होंने लिखना शुरू किया. First phase during the Vedic period, or maybe after that they started writing. So पहले तो charioteer bards ने लिखा, but after 500 BCE Brahmins took over and they wrote it for next 300 years. And then between this period of 200 BCE to 200 CE, we see that suddenly Vishnu का influence बढ़ना शुरू हुआ. So again, those अभी कल के ही sociology class में I was explaining this. Durkheim बोलता है कि there is a thinker. Don't go into the thinker. Basically, just understand this: that religion is a reflection of society. Basically, I've probably talked about Carl Sagan. He's a very famous scientist or astronomer, now died. Kind of the first astronomer to reach a celebrity status. तो इंडिया में इंडिया के ऊपर उसका एक वो है. Many of you have this idea. I don't know. Recently, थोड़ा सा society कहाँ जा रहा है. नीतीश ने एक पोस्ट डाला था व्हाट्सएप स्टेटस में इन द क्लास कि उड़ीसा का जो जगन्नाथपुरी टेम्पल है, इफ यू विल लुक एट द टेम्पल, सो नो मैटर ऑन विच साइड यू लुक, its chakra will always will be facing you, and no matter in which side wind is blowing, its flag will always flow in one certain direction, and the temple do not cast any shadow. You search about Jagannath Puri, you will easily find this claim. मतलब पहले यही निकल के आता है, interesting facts about Jagannath Puri. I hope many of you have visited the Jagannath Puri and try to recognize. When I go, I just look कि नहीं ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है. There's nothing magical in that. The structure is very nice, बहुत अच्छा बनाया है, and it's marvelous that somebody did that at that point of time. So, सी वेव्स की साउंड तो ऐसे भी नहीं सुनाई देती है. Nothing magical in that. So you stand outside the temple तो तुमको नहीं सुनाई देगा. So पढ़ा था तो उसको भूल जाओ. That's bullshit. प्रथमेश is saying कि कल ही इस बारे में पढ़ा था. So sometimes we took religion in such way कि उसको हम एक dogma बना लेते हैं. We took our like rational human thinking brain somewhere else and we started believing in all these things. I have been there, I am searched for this and I know कि ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है. So Nitish told me कि sir you seems to be anti Sanatani. आप सनातन धर्म के तो नहीं लगते हैं, आप सनातन धर्म के खिलाफ लगते हैं. No, I find this comment very funny because those who know me, इतना थोड़ा सा तुम लोगों के साथ इंटरेक्शन हुआ होगा तो I will go into religion. पढ़ना है इसलिए all these are नहीं, I'm not bullshitting. So ये काम की बातें हैं, ठीक है. तो I've read quite a few religious scriptures, चाहे वेद हो, चाहे उपनिषद हो, चाहे गीता हो, 3-4 वर्जन्स ऑफ गीता है और सब पढ़ा है, रेगुलरली पढ़ता हूँ. अब कोई मुझे एंटी सनातनी बोलता है तो मुझे बड़ा हंसी सा आता है कि डू यू इवन अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट सनातन इज. लेकिन ठीक है. Why I'm talking about this? Because I'm seriously concerned because the way we are moving, the way our society is going, that's kind of very concerning. As a concerned citizen, as a concerned human being, I am concerned that where we are going. This is saying in India there are many Hindu temples that are beyond science. There are many things which are beyond science. There are many things which are beyond science. That doesn't mean it's godly or it's some कुछ ऐसा हो गया है. Science is evolving. Science is developing. Science does not know many things today. It will discover that there's some probably science पहले तो बोलता था when we started science. So they said कि there's like atom is the smallest particle. But then they realized that atom is not the smallest particle. Then said कि okay, electron, proton, neutron are. Then again they said कि नहीं, electron, proton, neutron are also not the smallest. Like उससे भी now we have many, like about hundreds of smallest particles. And then after that we have now quantum physics. It's completely a different realm which talks about that we can communicate from one part of the universe to the other part of universe instantly. There's no like light ka barrier, no something is, the information can travel faster than the speed of light. So that's also science. How much science do you understand? When you say there is something beyond science, okay, how much science do you understand? Have you read science? You know the meaning of science. Science is not something static कि आज यहाँ है यही सब कुछ explain कर देगा. when we started discussing about COVID, the first idea was it spreads from objects. कि सामान को लोग धो कर यूज कर रहे थे. Do not touch plastics and things and not take deliveries. Then later we discovered कि नहीं इससे ज्यादा नहीं हो रहा. It's mainly airborne. Then it's developing each day and every day. It's developing. Even today we do not know because science is not perfect and science never claims that science is perfect. The main thing, the main plank of the science is it can refute itself. Religion can never refute itself. If something is written in religion 3,000 years ago, you have to believe that. Either you do not believe that, or you leave the religion, or you believe whatever is written there. But science says this, even though science also believes. Science में भी बहुत सारी चीजें मान कर चलते हैं क्योंकि this might happen. But science is always ready to criticize that and change its course. So when you say that there is something beyond science, yes, there are many things beyond science. No scientists say that there are things which are not beyond science. But we are on the path of discovery. ठीक है, चलो थोड़ा सा लेक्चर, मतलब वो मैं इमोशनल हो जाता हूँ इस तरीके के लोगों से, मतलब इस एज के लोगों को इस तरीके से बिहेव करते हुए देखता हूँ तो लगता है कि वेयर वी आर गोइंग. Yes, I have 8 minutes more. I will finish this chapter at least, and then we will come back and we will read about Buddhism, Jainism. So 2 क्वेश्चन कम से कम आज प्रीलिम्स का पक्का कर लेंगे. ठीक है, आज के नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में 2 क्वेश्चन तो कम से कम हो जाना चाहिए, ऐसा अपना टारगेट रहेगा. So so Krishna, so why I was saying that we see that God is a reflection of society. So initially we were worshipping Indra. You see Vedas, the gods of Vedas are Indra. Indra is a drinker. दारू वारू पीते हैं और आराम से ऐसा अप्सराओं के साथ रहते हैं, झूठ वूठ भी बोल लेते हैं. So that he was God. But then our society changed and the perception of this God changed. This God was rejected. Now nobody treats him as a God. He's a dubious person, like a criminal in our history books, theological books. The God was changed and then Krishna become your God. Now this person is at least better than Indra. And then later we will realize even Krishna was not exactly opposing, according to the kind of society that we had. Then we created Ram. Was Maryada Purushottam, exactly reflecting the society that we wanted. पूरी थ्योरी है इस पे, छोटी मोटी बात नहीं है, ऐसे तुमको आसानी समझ में नहीं आएगी. But I hope some of you are smart enough to get what I'm pointing at. So in this period of 200 BC to 200 CE, Vishnu became your God. So there is nothing Sanatan. ठीक है, 2000 साल पहले विष्णु का एडवेंट होता है. The logic that there is some God like Vishnu. And then when I'm saying that I'm not anti-religious, okay, I'm totally religious and my name is Keshav. Okay? So I'm not demeaning Vishnu and I'm not demeaning Krishna. I'm just trying to point out this one simple fact that there is nothing which was eternal. Everything has evolved with us. So Krishna become important, and that's the period in which we see the addition of this didactic sections. भागवत गीता जो ऐड हुआ है राम महाभारत में कि ऐसा करो ऐसा करो ऐसा करो, that is very later addition that has been added into 200 to 400 CE, which resembles sometime according to Manusmriti. We will read about Bhagavad Gita in the next chapter also. So in the next part. So that's how with the addition of all these, so initially the book which started with 1000 verses become 1 lakh verses. Also, some archaeological surveys, especially by B.B. Lal, has found the city of Hastinapur in Meerut. And we also find that there is a great resemblance about the story that's being made there. Like it's located in Upper Ganga Dwap. And in this place, Kuru kingdom was also situated. but he find 5 occupational labels. Occupational labels, अगर archaeology पढ़ोगे तो ऐसा, if you dig deep, so you will find in one layer, like ऐसा क्या हो कि one kind of, like say 2000 years ago, or one kind of society was there, and then it was like covered and got destroyed, and upon that, after 100,000 years, a new kind of society develops, and then it was also covered, the new society develops. तो मैंने इसमें 5 ऑक्यूपेशनल लेवल्स निकाले हैं, उसमें से जो 2 इंपॉर्टेंट है अपने लिए, 12th to 7th century BC and then 6th to 3rd century BC. In both these centuries, we do not find mention of any masons or palaces or anything. They're like normal, simple reed walls plastered with mud, मिट्टी के घर, और कहीं कहीं ऐसे in the later part we also find brick walls. बट कोई बड़ा महल का कोई निशानी नहीं मिलता इस पीरियड में. So now people suggest, historians suggest, that all the narratives that we found about big complexes and urban centers, they can be either two things. Either they were a later addition into the epic, or they were just poetic fancies at one point. कवि को लगा कि अगर शहर बसाना ही है तो थोड़ा बड़ा बसा देते हैं, ऐसा छोटा क्या बसाए. तो ये हो सकता है. सबसे खतरनाक चीज जो अभी बता रहा हूँ, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, द्रौपदी की शादी. नाउ इन आवर कल्चर पॉलीएंड्री इज लाइक, कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता वन when having many husbands. But if you go to Himachal, there's a certain community where still they practice polyandry. एक और एक ही औरत होती है, उसके 4-5 पति, जितने भी भाई हैं, all are marrying to the same woman. They still practice in Himachal. But you see, अगर कोई भी स्टोरी लिख रहा है कोई राइटर, and he's ascribing that property to the central character, should we assume that in that period polyandry was accepted? सब कोई कर रहे थे, it was acceptable practice during the time when Mahabharata was written, or it was just एक डेवियंस था, ऐसा कुछ था नहीं, और एक सिंगल इंस्टेंस क्रिएट किया है. बट द वे स्टोरीज आर रिटन, यू विल अंडरस्टैंड कि अगर if it was just one particular instant or a deviation from the society, then why he would give that character to the central characters? तो हो सकता है कि उसमें कोई ऐसा साइड वाला कैरेक्टर होता, घटोत्कच टाइप का, या कोई वो ऐसा पॉलीएंड्री करता, तो कोई बात नहीं थी. मेन कैरेक्टर कोई पॉलीएंड्रिक मैरिज करवा रहे हैं. But we find कि no matter what it was there, it was prevalent or not prevalent, but later they realized कि ये तो बहुत गड़बड़ हो गया है, polyandric हमने support तो कर दिया है, and that's why we find कि later part there were many attempts to justify that why Draupadi has to marry 5 kings. So somewhere because she was crushed by somebody, और ऐसा ऐसा कि शिवा का कुछ ऐसा हो गया, ऐसा हो गया, तो देयर मेनी एक्सप्लेनेशंस. सो एक गलती के लिए बहुत सारे एक्सप्लेनेशंस किए गए हैं, एंड दैट मींस दैट एट लेटर पार्ट पीपल रियलाइज्ड कि पॉलीएंड्री ठीक नहीं है, एंड इसको किसी भी तरीके से जस्टिफाई कर लो. So finally we understand that these are very dynamic texts. बहुत सारे कल्चर्स और इपिक्स से मिलकर एक बना है, नो सेंट्रल थीम, और ऐसा. एक ये बड़ी अच्छी कहानी है, आके क्लास के बाद 2 बजे से 3 बजे से आते हैं, एंड ज्वाइन द क्लास एट 3 शार्प, बिकॉज नाउ वी हैव अ लिमिट ऑफ 100. ठीक है. पाँच सेकंड के बारे में बताऊंगा. चलो 3 बजे मिलते हैं. यू गाइस एट 3. थोड़ा सा दिमाग खुल रहा है, थोड़ा सा एकदम अलग सा कुछ फीलिंग आ रहा है क्या? परसेप्शन चेंज हो रहे हैं? चलो ठीक है, मिलते हैं 3 बजे फिर। और बुद्धिज्म पढ़ते हैं, उसमें तो मतलब कमाल, लाइफ का बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम, टेंशन खत्म